Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining for another one of these brief Teams sessions. Today, I mentioned a little bit before we actually got started, I wanted to talk about a new tool that I've learned about called Systematic Review Accelerator. It's actually a package of tools that can be used in working on systematic review research. It's a free resource. It's built by Bond University, which is in Australia. And I'm really going to look at a few aspects or a few tools that are bundled in this resource that sort of immediately seem useful to me and moving forward with systematic review research. And again, for those of you that weren't able to join, this is recorded, so it'll be up on our YouTube channel and on the research guide as well. And normally I show where you can find the link for a resource that I'm showing, either on the LUCOM library page or on the research guide. I haven't added this link there yet. At the very least, I'll email it out to everybody after this is over, and I might look at putting a link to it on the research guide for those interested in systematic review research and some of the tools that we're going to talk about. So I want to talk about basically what seem to be the five best aspects of this tool. And the first one that I want to talk about is called Polyglot Search. And if you look over here on the left side of the Systematic Review Accelerator, you'll see all these different Screenatron, Deduplicator, Methods Wizard. And if I just click on Polyglot Search, and it already has one here because I was playing with this and looking at it before. But just as an example, if you've ever done research in PubMed, like if you've used our link for PubMed and you've built an advanced search, this might look familiar to you. How this is one of the queries that I built in PubMed for searching for hypertension with the Boolean operators and beta blocker and diuretics, and I used the filter for meta-analysis and first line and filtered it out by meta-analysis, and we can see that has found 28 hits in the database using this advanced search. But the way this search string actually looks, like if you're doing a systematic review and you want to make your search results reproducible by other researchers that might come behind you and perform the same search to make sure that they do it exactly the same, this is what the actual advanced search string looks like. So that's something that you would put into your paper, into your systematic review, in order to publish it and make it reproducible. So if I copy that search string and I go over here to the Polyglot Search tool that's available in Systematic Review Accelerator, I can paste that and it will automatically translate. You can also import a text file. I didn't do that. You can paste it directly into here, but you can import it from a text file as well. But it'll automatically translate. So this is a PubMed advanced search string, but say I want to duplicate the search across multiple databases. If I want to look through Ovid Medline, it automatically translates the advanced search string that you can use in those other databases. They're very similar, but they might use a little bit different terminology. They might use different syntax in the way that the search is typed out. So doing this, I can get translations for Ovid Medline. I can get a translation for if I want to search Cochrane Library, which is kind of the gold standard for systematic reviews. And then I can just copy these advanced search strings and paste them into an advanced search in any of these databases, and it'll do the same kind of search that I did in PubMed. And you can see it's got Embase, which I don't think we actually purchased, but if you use Embase, you can search that. Cinol, we do have access to. We used to have Web of Science. We don't anymore, but we do have access to Scopus, which is a Elsevier product. We have PsycInfo, any of these, ProQuest Health and Medical. So you can see it saves a lot of time if I don't have to reinvent the wheel for every advanced search for every database. It automatically creates that translation that I can use in my research. So this is pretty cool to me. Just this alone is a pretty cool part of this resource. Something else you can do is word frequency. If you're trying to refine or make your search more powerful or more sophisticated, you can search for word frequencies. And the way this actually searches through citation files. In the past, I've shown how you can export citations from a database. Like for example, let's say if I go to these 28 results in my advanced search that I built for hypertension, beta blockers, diuretics, and meta-analysis. it finds these results, and if I select these 3 results in PubMed, it works differently in different databases, but in PubMed, if I select those citations and click Send to a citation manager, it creates a file, and it's some different databases call it different things. PubMed uses NBib as the file extension. So then I can go back to my SR Accelerator tool, and I want to find how many times each term or each mesh term or word is used in these citations. I can browse and find my citation file from PubMed, open it, and upload it, and it automatically shows me how many times blockers, treatment, beta blockers, how many times these words appear. So you can really see it's pretty powerful if I really want to focus in my search and I want to see that 31 times beta blocker was used, 41 times just blockers was used. Control was found 23 times in these different studies. So you can just export a citation file from any database. It doesn't have to be PubMed. And most of the databases we use do offer the ability to export citations. And then I can upload that file here and track word frequency in my citations. So that's the second tool in this resource that I wanted to show. Something else that's really cool is called Methods Wizard. So if you're using this tool along, to write your systematic review, if you look over here on the sidebar, you'll see Methods Wizard. And it looks like they've recently upgraded this. There's still a legacy version. I didn't look at the legacy version. I just looked at the main version now. And you can do all kinds of things with this to write your systematic review. You can add your eligibility criteria based on your PICO. This is new to me, being referenced as the PCOAST. I'm familiar with the population, intervention, comparison, and outcome, but they add study and type for their criteria. So I can literally use this to write who my population or what my problem being addressed is, what my intervention is that I'm looking at, the comparison intervention that I'm looking at, and I can determine whether that's an inclusion or an exclusion criteria. You can use these add buttons to add more aspects to your inclusion or exclusion criteria. And again, this is new to me, this type, and this is really whether it's primary or secondary. So primary, I imagine, would be if we want to look at like clinical case studies, cohort studies, things like that. Secondary might be other systematic reviews that have addressed this issue. And then this study or setting here is another thing you can use you can literally use this to build your systematic review. You can add your search strategy here. And so if I click on search strategy, I can choose whether I'm using mesh or other subject terms, synonyms or search filters, who's doing this, whether it's a librarian or information specialist. They even have Cochrane information specialists, so I guess those people might use this quite a bit. But you'll notice that these have X marks next to them. So I can click on that X mark and say, I'm using mesh or other subject terms. So I'm using medical subject headings. I am a librarian. I would also consider myself a health librarian. If we received help, we could say I received help from an information specialist and maybe a Cochrane information specialist. And you'll see that it's building this search strategy down here that I can use in my systematic review paper that I'm publishing, so I don't have to write it from scratch. It writes it out. The following components were included in the search string mesh or subject terms, constructed by a librarian and health librarian, was designed with the help of an information specialist and a Cochrane information specialist. So you don't have to use this. You can click on rewrite it. You can copy it and paste it into your study. But there's all kinds of tools just within this methods wizard. So there's even risk of bias assessment, which is pretty cool. I'm not an expert at this yet. This is still a new tool to me, but it looks extremely powerful for writing systematic reviews. And especially since in the past, when I've talked to Dr. Hogerl about our interest in systematic reviews, we've looked at tools like Distiller SR and other tools for writing systematic reviews, and they can be very expensive. And this is totally free. So that makes it pretty desirable in my mind. There's a deduplication check tool. If you look over here under Polyglot, you'll see Deduplicator. I don't have a huge file, but this also uses the citation files that you export from databases. So if I were to browse my downloads for my citation file from PubMed and upload it, this is going to show, no, there's only 3 citations, but it shows you if you have a large file of citations, it'll tell you varying degrees of extremely likely duplicates, highly likely, likely, and non-duplicates. So that can be a big part of your project if you're doing these really advanced search strings and looking through large citation files. Obviously, with these 3, it shows 0 for all of them, but that could be a really useful tool. And something else I wanted to mention. This is kind of new to me. If I can go back to Deduplicator, I want to close this. They have a different algorithm you can use when you're checking for deduplication, and you can choose cautious, balanced, or thorough, and it literally tells you what the difference in. I've never seen anything like that before, but it tells you how the cautious is for large libraries, very rarely mislabels, non-duplicates. So a really big project that might be useful, balanced for medium-sized libraries, and when they say libraries, they mean file of citations. Balances between duplicate detection and required checking time, and then thorough is really better for smaller projects, smaller citation files. It takes a little bit more time. So it's pretty cool. It's already built in there. And the last 2 things I want to show are this. They call this, kind of funny to me, Screenatron and Disputatron. So a big part of doing systematic review projects is screening articles. So if we click on Screenatron, it's already got, I already did this earlier, so it's already shown the 3 citations: first line drugs for hypertension, beta blockers for hypertension, and how strong is the evidence for use of beta blockers as a first line therapy. So I can choose tools right here. This is something that Dr. Hogel and I have looked at using templates in spreadsheets before, but this is really a pretty powerful screening tool. And I can view undecided, exclude, include. I can find the abstract. And so we can work on this project doing screening of our articles. And there's only 3 here, so it's not the best example. I should have made a bigger file so you can see this. But we can use this to screen, include, or exclude articles, or we're not sure. And for those that we're not sure, there's this thing called Disputatron. And so, like, when you're doing a systematic review, you normally have at least 3 screeners, and with one being like the tiebreaker. So like if there's an article where we've got 2 screeners and I include it and the other screener excludes it, we need a 3rd pair of eyes to look at that and decide whether that's going to be included or excluded based on our criteria. And they have a tool built here called Disputatron, and I'm able to upload, just like I saw earlier, libraries mean citation files. So I can upload citation files, put my reviewer names, and use that as a way to decide between which ones we're going to include and which ones we're going to exclude. There's some more tools available in this thing that I'm not sure I totally understand. There's the search refinery, spider site. This sort of looks like a hierarchy. This spider site, I didn't look at it too much. I need to spend more time with this to figure out how exactly spider site and search refinery are used. But just those that we talked about today: word frequency, methods wizard, polyglot search, Deduplicator, Screenatron, and Disputatron. Those are some incredibly powerful tools to be available for free, especially for any of our faculty and students that are interested in doing systematic review research. I can see this really being a useful tool for us going forward. So that's basically what I wanted to show today. I know that's kind of a quick analysis of what's available here, but it's a really great tool. I'm going to probably link to this on our research guide going forward so people can use it for systematic review research. And I appreciate you guys' time. And like always, this is recorded and it'll be up on the research guide available under brief how-to videos. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rob. This is great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you were here, Dr. Hoover. I was thinking of you when I was looking at this. So
When I